Welcome to the Roboticist Chronicles, an ARC Specialties podcast, where we get into the nuts and bolts of robots, automation, and the implications of an evolving machine workforce.
Hello, this is Dan Allford, and you're listening to the Roboticist Chronicles. Our guest today is Bart Taylor. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
So you are now associated with the Greater Houston Manufacturers Association, right?
I am.
That's what brought us all together.
It did, yeah. I knew Jeff Applegate before.
Who started the organization?
Started the organization in
When was
2012.
12, okay.
Yeah, Jeff and I are talking about him jumping back in and helping promote the association. It's just perfect timing. It's perfect timing for Houston. It's perfect timing for manufacturing.
Indeed. And then I've been ARC, my company, and I have been members for quite a few years. We've hosted a lot of the events here. So I'm a big supporter. So I want to get into that, but I want to know how you got here.
Yeah.
This is kind of an interesting story of how you came to be the guy at Greater Houston Manufacturers.
Yeah, thank you. So I've been in media all my life. In 2010, I was running a business publication in Colorado. And I got a close look at a very local manufacturing ecosystem and decided in 2011, 2012 that I wanted to branch out on my own and launch a media property called Company Week to report on local manufacturing.
Is this print?
It was digital.
Digital.
And
ahead of your time.
The changes in the print media were such that I couldn't have launched a media property in 2011 on bootstrapped financing unless it was digital. You walk away from that whole cost infrastructure with print and paper.
No ink.
No ink, that's right. And so I took a contrarian view that manufacturing was due for about 10 years of a good run in the U.S. I mean, remember in 2010, we'd just come off a decade where we lost 7 to 8 million manufacturing jobs.
Offshore was the trend.
Offshore was the trend. And we offshored entire industries. But I think by 2010, 2011, business owners were starting to realize that it wasn't all that it was cooked up to be. Managing a 2,500-mile supply chain is a lot tougher than it was. The local manufacturing where I lived was coming back in certain industries like food and beverage. Boulder County at that time had become the national epicenter for this natural and organic food movement that basically was changing the way we eat and distribute food. So listen, I took a run and I said, I think manufacturing is coming back. Me and others, like Harry Mosier at the Reshoring Institute, and I started writing about manufacturers for a manufacturing audience and immediately got traction with small and middle market companies who just wanted to be part of a community also betting on manufacturing. And I did that and grew that company and grew that business across the West. And in 2018, 2019, I decided I needed to move to Texas to launch the Texas Manufacturing Report because I didn't think I could do it right in Texas without living in Texas. And I moved to New Braunfels.
Perfect place. I go there to vacation.
I'm sure you do. Schlitterbahn probably, right?
Oh, no, we're kayakers. We play on the river.
There you go. So I immediately got traction with the Texas Manufacturing Report for a lot of reasons. I mean, Texas is a manufacturing ecosystem. And I, along the way, just kept reporting on companies, growing my circulation in Texas. And I ran into a company called Sustainment that was building a national database, essentially a supplier sourcing platform. And I felt like that was really the next wave in manufacturing was digital connectivity to where an OEM in aerospace, for example, could source a new supplier. And in the DoD, the supply chain is in crisis mode. Department of Defense, as you know, being a key supplier in DoD, they've lost over almost 20,000 small suppliers over the last decade to a lot of things, to the complexity of working in the Department of Defense, to the expertise needed to do it these days, to a trend in the OEMs to consolidate suppliers, so they're working with fewer suppliers. But anyway, we got going in Texas. I met Sustainment. They ended up buying my company and buying the whole media property because I had built this audience of 40 to 50,000 suppliers across the West, and they wanted to get those suppliers into the database so that OEMs could begin accessing them, and I sold the business. I ended up joining Moss Adams because after a year It turned out that the marriage, as sometimes happens in a buy-sell scenario, didn't work out great. So I ended up joining a company that sponsored me and was advertising with me over all of those years. And that's how I reconnected again in Houston with Jeff. And Jeff and I met, and he said, he encouraged me to reach out to the GHMA and get involved, because Jeff knew that I was a content person, a writer, a community builder. He felt like those attributes would serve me well and serve the GHMA well. I talked to Wayne Mossbach, who you've had on the show.
We've had both Jeff and Wayne on the show.
Right. And they liked my vision. You know, essentially what you have in Houston is one of America's great industrial towns that is criminally underpublicized. And I just felt like we have this opportunity with GHMA to kind of start over and to reinvent an association in a great industrial town and have it be whatever we want it to be. Associations, and we'll talk more about this, have reached a point where so many just don't deliver value for the companies that join them. And so what's attracted me about GHMA in the context of Houston's great national and global opportunity is to create an association that does what we want it to do. Not only Jeff's vision of connecting the community more closely, so that if you need something built in Houston, you can find a builder for it or a maker for it, but also now to publicize this community and this ecosystem to a national and global audience who are reshoring their work from Asia or wherever that outpost might be. We have an opportunity to showcase and uncover this incredible ecosystem and publicize it for the benefit of both manufacturing and Houston writ large. So that's the 30 or the 5-minute summary of why I'm here and what I think is the incredible opportunity.
I think Jeff's point is, everybody talks about buy local, but they usually talk about that in terms of food. And that's an admirable approach, but industrially, you can buy almost anything you need right here in Houston, Texas. I mean, Jeff's doing injection molding, we're doing robotics. You should see my Rolodex. I can get you anything you want within 100 miles.
But contrast that again with the perception of manufacturing writ large, that there aren't manufacturing resources, go-to manufacturing industries or companies in the United States, and that's still a driver for companies looking offshore. It used to be that labor cost was the magnet for companies moving offshore. There was such a delta between labor cost here and in China, for example, that it just was too much of a magnet for companies who felt like they could build a brand, make a product offshore, import it. And for a long time, that cost was the barrier for staying here. Today, I think companies have decided they can't afford to be offshore, because it's not just a cost of labor issue, it's a supply chain issue. How many companies' products were sitting in the port of Los Angeles during COVID? You have supply chain disruptions. You have China threatening our semiconductor provider. So you have geopolitical risk, you have supply chain issues, cost is the delta's closing. The challenge today is finding expertise and talent to make something, to bring it back. And you say that, and I believe that Houston has those assets and those resources. I don't think a lot of people know that. And in fact, we need to do a better job of publicizing who's here and what can be built in Houston. Again, our great opportunity at GHMA, but a great challenge. This has been tried before. As I mentioned, the company that bought me, they essentially stopped publishing my media because they weren't getting any traction in selling their SaaS service to OEMs, because companies still want to work with people. It's still a handshake business to a great degree, and finding somebody to make your next product, a very complex product, digitally online, is still a bridge too far for companies. Our challenge is to make sure we can help companies that want to be in Houston stay here, and to find resources, expertise, and talent in the manufacturing ecosystem for companies that want to make in America but haven't found it elsewhere. Houston could be that place.
No, we've got schools, we've got transportation, you've got a friendly government, you've got a good workforce. We've got all the pieces.
We do have all the pieces, and it's up to us just to kind of connect the dots as we go forward.
Okay, so you've already sold me. I'm already a fan of professional societies. I think I'm a member of half a dozen
Right.
of them. Greater Houston Manufacturers Association, just one of them. You said something earlier about adding value or the value of it. You don't have to sell me, but there's people listening here. Why should anybody bother to join one of these organizations?
Yeah, I think generally there are two major benefits. One is I think you'll meet people that you didn't know. That can be a business partner, that can be an outsourcer, that can help you grow your company locally. And if you look around all the metro areas in the country, Los Angeles, Chicago, Phoenix, there are associations that are charged with doing that. Some are more successful than others, and it's like any other business. It's based on the people running it, how compelling they are, what their vision and mission is. It's a function of support. Support varies if you go city to city. Some are fully vested in chambers of commerces. The university system is leaning in. City and state government support them. And more important, there's somebody at the head of the organization, whether that's a governor, whether that's a chamber of commerce leader who believes in manufacturing. So when it comes to manufacturing associations, some have put all of these pieces together, but very few. When you look at all the variables that it takes to be successful. And others have done very well in doing that. It wouldn't surprise you to know that Illinois is a very, very strong industrial ecosystem, in Chicago in particular. And another place, and what essentially they've done is they found the pieces. There's a strong trade association that's doing good stuff. They're staying in their lane, benefiting a strong chamber or economic development entity that's leaning into manufacturing, anchored by a university system that believes in manufacturing and is involved in it, and of course a community college and trade ecosystem. If you have all of those pieces pulling in the same direction, you likely have a successful trade association. Other cities are missing one or two of those key pieces. Another key piece is the MEP system, the Manufacturing Extension Partner system that's based out of the Department of Commerce and NIST. NIST has really leaned in. There are 50 MEP centers across the country, one in every state. In states where the MEP, which is federally funded, in some cases, there's a cost offset, where they're doing good work and they've aligned with other assets in the state, they do really well. In Utah may be an example of one of the most functional and effective ecosystems, including a trade association, that is comprised of a trade association, UMA, an MEP, the Utah MEP that's funneling federal resources into the University of Utah, which is obviously a very highly ranked, incredible university, a great trade ecosystem. But more in Utah, you also have this workforce advantage where kids go to college, they leave and go on missions, they come back educated, they come back committed to entrepreneurial endeavors and to building families in Utah. They want to be with similar people. So when you put all of those pieces together, it's why Utah is the fastest growing manufacturing ecosystem in the country. Fastest growing from 2019 and 2024 by percent, not by pure numbers. Texas is the fastest growing state manufacturing.
We started out ahead.
We started out ahead, and just the things that you pointed to, pro-business, several different hubs. Austin and Houston, San Antonio look very different from a manufacturing standpoint. They look the same in some ways, but Austin wants to be this tech manufacturing ecosystem, fueled by Tesla and Samsung, who is determined that Central Texas will be a semiconductor ecosystem. Dallas is the interesting outlier here. Dallas is
I'd say aerospace is
aerospace and food and beverage, a big CPG center, consumer packaged goods center, big distribution and manufacturing ecosystem there. San Antonio, a lot of construction. Houston, a lot of industrial, energy, a lot of companies, nothing like you after my brief tour, but very industrial. And so Houston has this interesting mix of assets that still struggle to come together in a way. Texas has a unified message at the top. I think Governor Abbott has been pro-manufacturing. He's built a pro-business reputation here. So the pieces are in Texas. What Texas needs is a Houston, a vibrant association in Houston. So that's the big picture. I think just down to the association level, you do need to have a clear mission. And I think where associations get tripped up, building community is a great thing to do. How you go about that and returning an investment to people who lean in and buy memberships and attract sponsors is a different story. I think associations, our challenge as GHMA, now that we're re-energized and growing again, is to get laser focused on some key outcomes that attract people like you to get you to, you're different. You lean in.
I want to get the youngsters. And so I want to get in the nuts and bolts. You just mentioned that, they're going to develop relationships and network with people. I want to hear more about the specifics. You know how I met you, right? Was at a
GHMA.
At a mixer.
Yeah, at a mixer.
I think here's my impression.
Yeah.
GHMA does two things. We have a mixer, and it's a very casual event. Everybody just talks. I meet interesting people.
Yeah.
And then you have technical events where you have a speaker, dinner, and something like that. They both accomplish the same thing. It's all about networking.
Yeah, I think networking is central to anything that we do. Just connecting with other people, connecting with new opportunities. I think there's more that has to happen. We are in this such interesting time where manufacturing is so popular. We need to bring buyers into the Houston community, companies who want to hire people like you. You don't seem to have many problems attracting.
No, we're in 33 countries, but I'm all about buying local, but I'm about exporting international.
That's right. That's true. We need those buyers coming to Houston to find people to work with. And to me, that's the third leg of the GHMA, the second leg of the GHMA mission, is we need to structurally put in place programs to bring out of state, out of country buyers into Houston. If you're looking for an injection molder, if you're looking for an electronics manufacturer, I was just down at Alert Tech SMT in South Houston down by NASA. What an incredible company. There are these gems, and I think we just need to go industry to industry. We need to gather leaders from those industries, and we need to make you and them available to people who want to come in and evaluate Houston as a destination. In addition to the core organic networking that we're facilitating week in and week out. And I think that's the leg that will really add value to what we do, frankly. If we can put in place programs and ideas, get help from the governor, get help the governor's office, from economic development folks like GHP who have been so open to meet with me.
Oh, those are great guys. I'm
oh
also
my
a
gosh!
member of that too.
Here's a person who is not a Houston native, but knocked on their door and said, I'm new to the GHMA, but I'm not new to Texas manufacturing. Welcomed me in. They are so committed to establishing new opportunities for Houston manufacturers here, but also showcasing the community and the city for new manufacturers. And my impression today after doing this for a couple of months is that that's our big opportunity to do what you described, to do some blocking and tackling so we're more systematic in terms of bringing the community together, facilitating introductions between people, but at the same time, having structured events where we're bringing companies in to showcase this incredible ecosystem, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. And, Greater Houston Partnership, wonderful people. I think they call themselves a Chamber of Commerce on steroids. And they've been very good to us. And I support them also. So that's sort of a bigger picture to me. So
It is.
I think by collaborating with them, you're going to do great things. But So how do these trade associations work? Or is everybody volunteers? Are there some paid people? Or
Really great question. The good ones have evolved to where they've reached some level of financial success where they can hire a full-time executive director.
because you can only abuse volunteers so much.
That's kind of where GHMA. That's what Jeff and Wayne told me. I mean, we're all volunteer. We need a path to an organization that does more, meaning it needs to be financed to do more. Well, so it's a chicken and the egg thing. And I'm just in the community now, selling sponsorships, trying to get people involved where they weren't. Their question to me is the same question sponsors and moneyed interest ask associations throughout the country. What do I get from this? What kind of programming do you do? How many events do you do? How about your business meeting? Where are my opportunities to present, to present quality programming, to meet new customer prospects? So it's a chicken and the egg deal, at least it will be for GHMA. Our mission is to put a program together and content together that is good for manufacturers first and good for the people, the moneyed interests that want to support the association and meet the membership second. Companies who figure that out soon benefit from growth in memberships, which drive growth, and sponsorships, which attract more money. Pretty soon, you have a board comprised of manufacturers, not volunteers. Many of them are paid members, and you basically pull all of these pieces together and fund it through great programming content, and then you're able at some point in time, when you reach some level of financial viability, because you're growing the membership, you're growing the sponsor base, you're adding value, that you can then begin hiring full-time people to do it. In Texas, we were talking, probably the most mature manufacturing association is in Austin. ARMA, the Austin Regional Manufacturing Association, was led by a great guy who launched ARMA about the same time I launched Colorado Manufacturing Report as part of my media platform, Ed Latson. Ed was successful in doing what I just described. He just slowly started putting together great programming, getting manufacturers together. In business interests, service companies wanted to be part of those conversations, so they started to pay Ed to do that. Along the way, Ed was able to go out and sell a couple of primary sponsors who then added financial wherewithal to the organization, and then you just slowly start building. What happens though in the life cycle of these associations is you start just doing the same things. The same people attend. The same.
You gotta break that, Sharon.
What's that?
You got to fix that.
You do. The same service providers show up. Pretty soon, you're more successful in selling service companies and associate members than you are manufacturers, because the value to a manufacturer begins to diminish. So you continually have to kind of reinvent your programming, and that's kind of what's happening in Austin today. Kevin Fincher is the executive, full-time, paid CEO of ARMA. He's expanding his expo, his manufacturing expo and conference, to 2 days, which is attracting more money, which is enabling him to develop more programming. Some of that sticks, some of it doesn't. So if you're really good from a content standpoint, and I happen to believe that's my superpower because I was a media guy, right. I believe you can continue to reinvent yourself and add value. Our first mission, Dan, around the GHMA is to make it a more time investment worthy endeavor for manufacturing companies.
Who's supposed to join? Strictly manufacturers, or how about an engineer that's interested in the industry?
I used the term enabler out on your shop floor today, which was woefully short of what you do. But engineers and other technology providers, what I would call an enabling community, we want them part of the GHMA. They can join as members.
So your company doesn't have to be a member as a point.
Well, I mean, the GHMA you join as a company, and then we help you get as many people as can benefit into the association. Right now, on the associate side, We have changed to where it's an individual membership. So
Okay.
if you join as a bank, the Bank of Texas, for example, company I would love to have part of what we're doing. Chase Bank, I would love to have them involved. We're not going to sell them an $800 membership, which is the cost of an associate membership now, and have them bring 10 bankers. That's going to be an individual membership.
Right.
For a company, it's first of all the barrier to entry is much lower, $250 to $400 in that range per year. We're going to be very flexible in terms of who comes and how many folks they can bring to a networking event. We want manufacturers there. Manufacturers attract other manufacturers. We kind of have to flip that script at the GHMA. It's become it had become, coming out of COVID, an associate member heavy organization, and that's not the formula for success as a trade group.
Well, most of the other ones I'm a member of, American Welding Society and things like that, you can be an individual member. Why aren't you doing that way? Or is that something worth trying? Or
It's certainly something worth looking at.
because you might get an engineer who'll bring in a company.
Very much. In fact, we thought about on the associate side requiring that a new associate member bring 3 new manufacturers with them who are their clients, for example.
Oh, that makes sense.
And of course they're interested, and of course they have manufacturing clients. That's why they're interested in the GHMA in the first place. Manufacturing today, and has always been, since I started in the business in 2013, companies love manufacturing businesses. They're
You're creating
solid
wealth. You're creating jobs.
Exactly.
I love this.
They create wealth, the multiplier effect, which we're all familiar with. One manufacturing company or one manufacturing jobs creates X number of others. You don't get that multiplier effect in other industries like
No, you're passing money back and forth. You're not creating anything.
That's right.
Sorry.
That's right. No, you are. Buildings like this, these brick and mortar buildings, they represent stability and future. And there's so many family and legacy businesses in manufacturing. We continue to debate nationally. It drives me crazy whether we should bring manufacturing back on shore. And it's amazing that we're even still having that debate. If we don't realize what we lost in the 2000s in losing 8 or 9 million manufacturing jobs, we're not paying attention. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the media, my business, aren't paying attention, and have this notion that it's inevitable that we move to a service economy. There's nothing inevitable about it.
Well, how are you going to create anything? There's only 4 segments that create wealth: farming, manufacturing, construction, and mining. The rest just redistribute wealth.
That's it.
And so
And build and trade in other people's wealth.
that's there's no gain there. That's
gain.
Unsustainable.
That's right.
And so that's why, when I got out of school in the 80s, right, manufacturing was 20-something percent, 28% of the GDP. And that shrank to 10 by 2008. And you saw where that got us.
That's right.
Because of recession. The way an economy recovers is through manufacturing and the other 3 segments. So I'm a huge fan, obviously.
Yeah, and I am too. We're both advocates. But if you look at this intersecting graph where you have GDP and employment going down, you have the trade deficit going up, and we're supposed to accept that that's like normal. And I just think it's lazy reporting. And I think we go into this with certain biases, this discussion of whether we're going to have a service economy and whether we should. It doesn't matter. When I started my business, I had a running debate with columnists at Fortune and Forbes who were adamant that it didn't matter where the products designed at Apple were made. It just mattered that they were designed here, and that our intellectual expertise would somehow morph from a historical commitment to being the world's top manufacturer into the service economy, and we would somehow come out of that unscathed and wealthier. That didn't happen, and the fact that we're still kind of beating that drum is not a great sign for us, to be honest with you.
Well, people say we can't compete, and that's we're living proof here at Dark Specialties. We're in 33 countries.
Come and walk through your shop. I'm just intimidated talking with you based on what you just showed me. It's an incredible company that you've built here. Just demonstrates so many facets of why manufacturing is so important in our country. Your customers speak to that. The diversity of customers that you have that are buying you to do the range of services and building and manufacturing that you do, it's hats off.
Well, and if people say that robots take jobs, and I'm living proof that they keep jobs in the country, because if you want to make 3 times, 10 times as much as some foreign country, then you have to be 3 or 10 times as efficient. And how do you do that? Labor-saving devices, and that's what robots are.
They are, and by the way, we're by a factor of what, 4 or 5, a more automated ecosystem than we were, let's say, a decade ago. But guess what? We've had job growth. We have had sustained manufacturing job growth the last decade as we've automated. Exactly to your point, automation will bring jobs to manufacturing long term. Yeah, sure. I mean, people will be repositioned. The trend I see in reporting on manufacturing for the last 10 years is that people are moved into more value-added positions in the company through automation in many cases, not every case, but many cases. So listen, this whole notion that automation will lower the workforce footprint of the country, it may slow it, but it's not. There's no proof that that's happened.
Not at all.
And there's no reason to think that automation won't attract a new work. I just wrote a piece about a shop out in California, Avalon Manufacturing. Matt's mission is to back up a truck full of metal and ingots on one side of the factory and have aerospace parts come out on the other side. Totally hands-free, totally. Humans, of course, intervene. They're programming. They are running machinery. They're calibrating.
Building robots.
They're building robots. They're integrating. And what that's done for Matt is it's opened up a whole new workforce opportunity for him. Now engineers and college graduates, STEM kids, are coming to his shop saying, I'm tired of contemplating working for Facebook. I want to build something.
Something
Matters for national security. Matt's building parts for warfighters. So a kid from wherever, whatever great university in California, comes to his shop with an engineering degree and say, no, this is what I want to do. This is my future. Not going to work for a tech firm. That's the opportunity we have. And it's not going to be the same opportunity community to community. We need to lean into all manufacturing industries because manufacturers share this common. I proved it as a publisher that a food and beverage manufacturer that had reached 50 million and was looking to automate the back end of his production line has a lot in common with a $50 million aerospace manufacturer who's trying to bring advanced robotics to his organization. They have the same challenges, the workforce challenges, technology challenges. At the end of the day, they make stuff. And the bond is just incredible.
Well, I was hoping you wouldn't tell everybody that. That's our secret, because we'll go from making candles one day to a plutonium plant, and it looks very different, but not to us. It's motion control.
That's right.
And process control. So so we'll take an idea from one industry, move it to another, makes us look smart. But you're right. All the automation problems are very, very similar. They involve motion. They involve, closed loop control. That's my world. I wish I hadn't have told everybody.
We need more of you, though. But I could have told you that before we started talking.
So, who should get involved in Greater Houston Manufacturers Association, and how can they do it?
Thank you. We want manufacturers of a nice segue. We want manufacturers of all ilk, regardless of what they're making, regardless of who they're making it for, to be involved in GHMA. We really focus on the small and middle market manufacturer because I think the connections and the results of associations work benefit them most. That's not to say we're not going to work with OEMs and others who have built a supply chain with Houston manufacturers, but we want manufacturers involved with our organization. They can reach out to me at the GHMA. It's Google Greater Houston Manufacturing Association. You can find me. I'm busy redoing the website.
You're doing a good job, by the way.
It's just a work in progress, dude. I mean, it's small progress, but it's important progress. And look back in a year, you're going to see a better, more functional site. It's not about the website, though. It's about the programming that we build. So do it that way. We want you involved. If you're a service company out there, we want you involved as well. Just understand that we want to create a different user experience at the GHMA than we've had. That's really focused on the interest of manufacturers first, and value will flow from that commitment. So we want them involved as well. btaylor.media@gmail.com is where you can reach me. And I'm happy to set you up and get you involved. I'm sure that you would have more questions than answers maybe after listening to this. I really appreciate you having me on, giving me an opportunity to come and be an evangelist for Houston manufacturing.
Well, I'm a fan of manufacturing, obviously, and your group. And buy locals always been, one of my focuses. So what's the next event? God knows when somebody's going to hear this thing, but what's typical?
Yeah, the next event, we spoke about Jeff Applegate. Jeff's going to host a tour
of his injection plant.
That's right.
Oh, it's I encourage everybody to go. I've gotten to walk through with Jeff before. It's fascinating.
An amazing facility, and he's expanded. He's a new building, new technology. So we'll be touring Texas injection molding on April 23rd. And we would encourage
South Houston, right?
South Houston, that's right. That is where Alert Tech will be, and we'll be back at Alert Tech later in the fall to do a similar tour of an incredible electronics manufacturing operation. Has GHMA visited here?
Oh, we've held a couple of meetings here, and you guys have a standing invitation.
Oh my gosh!
We'll even power up Bart and have him right.
If you give the tour that I got today, I would encourage every manufacturer in Houston to take advantage of that. First, you have to join. You have to lean in to what we're trying to accomplish here. So we are going to ask that you join the GHMA before you can participate in the site tours. We've had a lot of people kind of lurking around the organization. Nothing wrong with that. But we're going to ask you to join and lean in, get a little skin in the game to help us build something that could be a national star here. Houston is already a great industrial town. We plan on building Texas's top trade association. It's a tall order, but I think we're up for it. All we have to do is lean on the manufacturers that are here, and I think good things will happen.
I think you're in the right town.
I do too.
Been great. It's fascinating to me because, like I said, I've been involved in trade associations my whole life. Way back when I first moved to Houston, I couldn't even afford to go to the dinners. I would skip the dinner because I couldn't afford it and just go to the technical meetings. And I attribute much of my success to the networking. So I kind of had to sneak in afterwards, but it was worth it. It was. And so I'm a big fan of that, and I hope the youngsters out there that are listening to this are going to hear us and at least consider getting involved, because this is how the world works.
You're going to learn so much. You're just going to learn so much. We're going to bring Houston's assets to the forefront here, and I hope you'll be part of it.
What did we miss? Anything I didn't catch? Well, very good. I'll tell you what. Let's do this again sometime.
Would love to. Yeah, let's check in 6 months and see how we're doing.
Very good. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.